Simon, I want you to read this. Jim, can you give us some background mood music?
Give me a mood. What kind of mood are we going for?
It's a romance. Not a sexy romance, just a romance. Like it's a. Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it, Simon.
The non-fat hazelnut latte. This is really long.
It's only 2 pages.
More pages than I want.
It's only 2.
Simon was a barista. He'd always been a connoisseur of the finest beans. Arabica, Robusta, green. He loved the texture, the smell, the mouthfeel. The way the bean curved on his lips and the heat as it ran down his throat. He took another sip. His lips opened at the gates to a flood of emotion, and it poured down as he gurgled a big, warm, caffeinated bubble. I can't deal with this amount of sexuality, he said a voice in front of him. Simon looked up, and before him stood a maiden fair of skin, golden-haired. She looked about 18, perfect for a rugged, mature 23-year-old bachelor like himself. He thought to himself, what should I bring up first? My extensive knowledge of the ampersand? Of the beaned coffee? Nay. So fair a maiden could only be regaled by tales of the workings of wood. I'm a woodworker, he offered. That means I work with wood. The girl blushed. I get covered in sawdust and chips of wood, he continued. But it's okay. It's all for the greater good of my craft. My SP Woodcraft. Large non-fat hazelnut latte to go, please. Simon could tell that she was after something else. Something similarly solid, but less wooden. His glasswork. He had been blowing glass for several months at this point in our story, and thought himself something of a prodigy. He told her this verbatim. That's really fascinating, she responded, lying. I bet you get tired of blowing your own glass so often. I'm curious as to what you think, as to what you like to eat. She had no idea of the world of flavors he had to offer. He was, after all, a well-traveled gentleman. Spain, Iceland, Dublin, North Carolina. For a brief moment he imagined himself walking arm in arm with her down the canals of Amsterdam. I've gotten really into kale lately. Do you know it's an antioxidant? I always say people should have less oxides in them. That's something I say a lot, actually, and people listen when I say it. She blushed. I should take your order, he offered, smiling softly back at her. Large non-fat hazelnut latte for here. That means I have to wash your fucking cup. She smiled. Usually she would not put up with this type of unwillingness to do the smallest amount of extra work for which she was also paying him, but his eyes were such a haunting shade of green that she couldn't say no. When do you get off? She asked slyly. He knew what she meant. When do you? He replied. She blushed. He blushed.
I think you need to start over from the first part of that.
When do you get off? She asked slyly. He knew what she meant. When do you? He replied. She blushed. He blushed. They blushed. They were both blushing now, he noticed, and had to say something. We're both blushing now. I know, she said, blushing. What time do you finish work? Please tell me, as I would like to see you. Alone. At your house. Or mine, I'm not picky. He handed her a large, non-fat hazelnut latte. 8:30. But I've got to warn you. I'm into some weird stuff. Me too. See you then. When the clock struck 8:30, it was time for Simon to go home. Most days when he got off work, he'd hop on his trusted fixed-gear bicycle and take a long ride home along the canal. He liked his fixed-gear bicycle because it was so authentic, not being able to change gears, and he didn't need to climb as many hills, so it was kind of fine for his purpose, really. On his bike ride home, he would stop at his favorite spot on the canal and watch the sun set over the tower of the Atwater Market. The subtle hues of blue and orange mixed with the evening sky like two dancers dancing, and he blushing. Simon wouldn't be riding his bike tonight. He had something else to ride this time. The girl had ridden to his coffee shop on a small, thoroughbred pony, barely big enough for two. "Hop on," she said, drawing him in with her words and also with hand gestures. "This baby gets 10 miles to the gallon." "Gallon of what?" he asked. "Large non-fat hazelnut lattes." It's a metaphor for how the increasing industrialization of North America is laying waste to the classic structures of horse-based transportation. Simon didn't understand. He looked at her with a clueless look and said, "I'm a little furry baby, and I want you to rock me slowly to sleep." "That's very forward," she replied. "That's how I roll." They set off down the road, trotting at horse's pace. Simon learned that the maiden's name was Tim, and that her trusted steed was also named Tim. "It's a metaphor," she explained, giving no further detail. As they trotted along, the subtle gyrations of up and down motions brought to Simon's mind the image of the graceful ampersand with its subtle curves, its shapely bosom, and its long and boring history. He whispered in her ear, "The ampersand originally was short for and per se and." This got her super hot. She pulled the horse over and immediately started tonguing at Simon's dumb beard. "Why aren't you kissing my mouth, Tim?" "I need to tell you," she said. "I'm allergic to coffee. I could smell it on your breath, and I didn't want to take any chances. If I swallow even a single drop, I start vomiting and shitting at the same time, just everywhere." She blushed. He blushed. They blushed. Tim, the horse, whinnied, as if to say, "I am blushing too." "Oh, but I don't want you to change. Do you want me to keep my uniform on?" "That's not what I meant, but that's kind of hot too." They rode off together into the sunset, and the sun's last breath shone on the horizon. She looked back and said, "White lives matter too." The end. It's a good thing I'm an actor and I know how to cold read. Because
so good.
I've never seen this before in my entire life.
That was a solid performance by Simon Pelletier.
I'm gonna put this on the floor now.
That's fine.